Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We call this meeting to order for the City Commission of Coffeyville for Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Edwards.
Here.
Mayor Hendricks.
Here.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Here.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Here.
Commissioner Maples.
Here.
Next, we have the invocation, and we would like to invite Pastor Melvin Simpson.
It's not
He's
here.
not here.
That's unusual.
All right, we will defer to our city attorney, Paul Price.
Somehow I knew that was
Say
coming.
that. And remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's bow. Father in heaven, we are so thankful for this opportunity to do the city's business tonight. We pray that you'll be present with us, Father, and guide the decisions that are made. We thank you so much for the changing the seasons, Father, the cooler temperatures you've given us that remind us that you're in control of all things. Be with the City Commission tonight and be with staff. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, we have a review of the agenda.
I will move to amend the agenda to remove the city funding request from our consent agenda, to add the revenue neutral rate verbiage to consent agenda item number 4, and to add an executive session for the attorney consultation exception.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maples to amend the agenda to remove the city funding request from the consent agenda, add revenue neutral rate verbiage to consent agenda item number 4, and add an executive session for the attorney consultation exception. Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Next up, we have the consent agenda, and we have included in that is the City Commission meeting minutes from Tuesday, August 27th, and Resolution R-24-67, a resolution to approve the urban area boundary lines, and Resolution R-24-68, a resolution to approve the urban functional classification system, and number 4, an action to set public hearing for the FY 2025 budget approval and revenue neutral rate for the September 24th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. and the 2024 appropriation ordinance number AO-24-17 in the amount of $1,370,443.38. Commissioner.
Do we need to go over any of the other things first?
Does anybody want to explain, just for those watching, what number 2 and 3 are, the resolution concerning the urban area boundary lines and the classification system?
Yeah, this comes up about every 10 years after censuses are done, and part of the federal highway aid program. There are laws that govern that, and we have to just make sure that those boundaries are always reviewed. There is no change to this, so it's just a continuation of what was 10 years ago.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just like to, those that are listening and that are here, so they understand what this is for, and that it doesn't, it's just the reviewing and enacting once again.
All right, so
All right.
some financial highlights from last period. We have ABC Coffeyville Christian Preschool, an economic development grant in the amount of $10,000. They are building a new overnight daycare, and I believe this is to help them out. We have Asplund Tree Company for tree trimming in the amount of $11,042.70. Coffeyville Regional Medical Center, our sales tax distribution in the amount of $90,117.73. Commercial Bank, that's to pay for the fire truck. This period was $30,023.18. Environmental Systems Corporation, that's a equipment rental service, $13,720. Is that for the electric department? Marty?
I'm taking page 11?
Yes. First one on page 11. I think it's a maintenance agreement renewal.
What was the name of the vendor on that one? I'm sorry.
Environmental Systems Corporation?
Tony?
Yes.
It is. That's the renewal of maintenance contract?
Yes, that's right, for our SIMS monitoring.
Okay, thank you. Hample Oil Distributors for jet fuel, taxes, licenses, and permits in the amount of $22,481.26. Meriden Health for life insurance and health insurance, total amount of $124,977.42. Midwest Transformers, $66,039.45. Park Warehouse for structures for the tennis court in the amount of $92,960.75. Republic Services for residential services, $43,715.31. Southwest Power Pool, $100,015. Swindle Excavation for demo of 10 properties, $48,000. Wartzilla North America for $10,768.75. Wex Bank Phillips 66 for motor fuels, it's $20,729.42. And our payroll distribution this period of $538,989.53. Any questions?
Thank you, Commissioner Maples.
If there's no questions, I will move to approve items 1 through 5 of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Edwards to approve items 1 through 5 of the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Hendricks.
Aye. Next item, we have comments from the public. Do we have anybody from the audience that would like to speak? Okay, we'll move on. We have, going on to no old business, and we have new business, and we are going to move up the trash bid discussion to item number 1.
Yes, Commissioner, so we met in a work session, I was going to say a few weeks, was that last week? A few weeks, August 22nd work session. We reviewed the bids together, had a long conversation on our different options. You have that in a link, those options here again today that Melissa sent this afternoon, just to refresh if you want to open those up. Essentially where we landed on questions and what staff wanted to have a discussion around today was there was conversation on the weight of trucks. There was conversation around the cost to the city, but not only the cost to the city, the cost to the residents. Currently, we pass about a 40% increase on to customers. And so the continuation of doing that practice, lowering that amount, removing that amount, those are the items that we needed to have a discussion between the 5 of you this evening.
All right, I can start it off. My concern was the weight of the trucks, which really equals damage to the streets. Our goal, I think, going forward was to minimize damage to the streets from the very heavy trash trucks we've had for the past, I'd say, long time, and the way they're designed and how heavy they are and the weight they put on the front wheels and the action that when they turn around corners, we have seen damage to our streets. We have seen curbs upheaved. And we spend a lot of time and money for our street crew to go in and repair those. So how can we reduce that damage from trucks? And so I suggested we look at smaller trucks, and yes, that would, realizing it would cost more with the idea of it's going to save money in this other area of streets. You're either going to pay for it one way or another. I'm not, if we were to go with single axle or a lower weight truck, and yes, I fully realize it would cost more, I'm looking at not necessarily passing that on to the citizens or the trash customers, because thinking it would save us in street repair damage later. So I don't know what, we also have that a certain portion of the fee we charge to trash customers is going to nuisance and demolition of houses. Do we want to continue that revenue path to use, to do that, or find money for nuisance and tear down houses somewhere else, some other way, and not be part of the trash fee to customers? So there's different things we could do.
If I could add a comment here. I hadn't ever really paid that much attention to the wheel configurations on those trucks until this discussion started. And I noticed on the one that came by my house the other day, there's not two sets of wheels in the back, there's three. And when it becomes extremely heavy, unloaded, that third set of wheels in the back comes down. So now you've got 3, 2, 4, 6 wheels on the ground or on the asphalt now, trying to turn a corner and tearing it up, which is even worse. The heavier it gets, as the back end, as that the container sinks down, as it gets more and more weight, those rear wheels come down. So now it's worse. So I get where you're coming from.
Well, I'm driving around town, I've seen our residential streets just, when they were built many, many decades ago, back then the trash trucks were a lot smaller. They were the single axle. They were, somebody grabbing the cans, putting them in the back. And I don't know what, maybe Thomas could speak to this, but residential streets, I'm pretty sure, are not made to be for trucks and traffic heavier than 45,000 pounds. 60,000 pound trucks or even 50,000 pound trucks with dual axles are doing some damage. We've also seen where they're creating big pits in the road, right at the curb where the trucks run. I'm pretty sure it's not the mailman, or the mail trucks. They're lights. So the question is, what are we going to do? And we're not making a decision tonight. It's just discussion over the options. And I need to study this more for myself. I'm warming up a little bit more to the mid-loading trucks that are a little bit bigger, but mid-loaded. But I still don't like the heavy trucks doing damage to the streets. And if we're going to go spend the money in the next 3 to 4 years, 5 years, and repave a lot of these residential streets, I don't want them torn up in the next 2 to 3 years just because of heavy trash trucks, because we wanted to go with the cheaper bid. That, to me, that doesn't make financial sense. That's just me.
I concur.
Well, but if some of those streets are, I know First Street, they're putting the concrete there where the trash trucks go, and that's a savings to get, because that's not going to.
Some, but not all, and that,
It's some, but does it offset enough? Because you're not going to tear up that concrete like you're going to tear up the asphalt.
no, but I'm fully aware, I think it was Wilshire Street on the west side of town was built back better to handle heavier stuff, but that's one one short street. It's not the whole town. And-
No,
And the
it-
streets, we're not gonna be able to pave even 30% of the streets in the next 10 years. So the ones that are existing now, and we're probably not planning to get to for some time, I wanna save those as much as possible from this point forward. Even if they are slightly damaged, I don't wanna get to the point where, and I've seen areas around town where, you know, now the pit, the dip is over 12 inches deep and the curb's heaved up, and we're gonna have to address those areas as quickly as possible, but trying to prevent that further in other areas. And I fully realize this may cost us more, but we don't necessarily have to pass that on to the customer totally.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is passing it on to the
Yeah, and
customer.
I don't want to.
We don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that. I want to use you know, hopefully the predicted savings in street repair, you know, will pay for this. Can I put an exact number to it? No, I can't. But we know it's happening. We know the damage is happening. The cost is unknown, but I'm fully guessing. I've already seen so many places repaired just in the last year and a half, and it's probably well over $150,000 to $200,000 we've spent doing that, which is the difference.
Don't we have a couple of the representatives here this evening from, we have
Yes,
Green
yes, we
Environmental?
have Republic Services and
Yeah.
Green Environmental
Okay.
here.
I
If
was
hearing
hoping-
our concerns, could we ask them to come up and kind of give us a little
Do-
information on what you think for us and so forth?
Does Thomas or
Well, let's get.
No, let
let's
us
Mr.
ask
Deb.
Brubaker?
Let's let her
Who's gonna
desk to go
facilitate
first.
it? Yeah.
No, that's okay. You go ahead.
Come on up. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
You're
You're
fine.
fine.
I'm Jennifer Fagan with Republic Services, and I'm obviously not an expert on the mechanical side of the trucks and the weight and everything. I know this has been a concern of Coffeyville for, I've been here 23 years, so we've talked about this in previous meetings and everything. I'd like to probably have my either ops manager or general manager come to the next meeting. I didn't realize that we were going to be discussing all of this. How I've been explained it is pretty simple, is the weight of the truck is the weight of the truck. And it's no different than standing on 1 foot and having all the weight, or standing on 2. And with our trucks, it's balanced. And that's how I've been explained to it, to how it, obviously, if they take a corner and they get on the edge over here, anybody's going to probably cause some damage. We try to get away from that. I do know one thing, that to minimize the traffic, currently the way the trash service is, as well as the way it was bid, there's a certain time for a bulk item. But a resident can call at any time, and we have to go pick it up within 5 days. So that is extra added traffic of being on the street, as opposed to just going down the street, on a Tuesday. If 3 residents call on Friday and want it picked up on Tuesday, we have to go do it, as opposed to on their regular service day. So that's just some food for thought. I have talked to my ops manager about this. We haven't ran single axle trucks in 20 years. So everything we've been running, the commercial trucks that are coming through town, with the exception of anything Green Environmental has, are also the same. So I don't have, like I said, specifics. I can get that and be better prepared for that. at
Can
the
you
next
tell me
meeting.
how many people on average call per month or per week that ask you to come pick up bulk trash outside the normal monthly pickup?
I would say, I'm going to guess probably about 10%.
No, I mean,
So you're talking,
how many?
out of 4,000.
Well, how many
close to
requests?
4,000 residents,
I think we have,
36,
yeah.
I can't remember
I guess, let me
exactly.
reword that. How many requests do you get to come pick up bulk trash per month?
I'm going to guess approximately
10%.
300
Yeah.
that request it on a different time period than when it is. It just reads that we have to pick it up within 5 days, no matter if it's their week to get it or not. We
Okay.
have it
So
quartered off.
if we eliminated that, you would eliminate some of that traffic.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and the other question, do other cities have this same issue? Are you dealing with any other cities with this same issue?
No. I mean, and I'm just being honest, in 23 years, and I know he's city attorney for some of our other cities and everything, and we really don't hear it. Some of the smaller towns, years ago, Mound Valley, they talked about it because they were having, some money issues, I believe, and that was a way that they wanted to try to eliminate some costs. But that was a long time ago.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, thank you
it's-
very much.
So that's basically what, 10 a day?
That's
Extra calls?
a
Yeah.
lot more.
Yeah, that's a
more.
lot. I
That's
didn't
a
real-
lot.
That almost tells me we almost need to move to back, if we wanted to schedule and not just random whenever, maybe it's twice a month,
Or they
run
could
through
just
the
pick their
town.
day and put it out then.
Yeah.
Or
that-
wait till the next
It is
month.
once a month, or wait, yeah.
It's quartered off into weeks, certain sections.
Right,
of town,
right.
the First week, the second week.
Right,
But what I'm saying is if they would do it on the day, on the week they're supposed to, it wouldn't be an issue.
Right.
you're right.
Well, or even if they requested it outside that time, it's either middle of the month or end of the month.
Okay.
And that's two choices.
All
Yeah.
right. Can we have Green Environmental come up now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Let's go ahead and have them.
Hello, my name's
Hello.
John Hafner from Green Environmental, and what she said about the trucks, the weight is the weight. I've been doing this 40 years, almost 37, 8, 9 years, sort of all runs together, but the single axle trucks don't churn, what you were talking about with the 3 axles. The 2 axles does it worse than the single axle. If you overload a single axle, it's going to weigh, like the weight is what the weight is.
Right.
With a lot of the trucks that Republic and the other big companies are running, and they make a lot of sense in some places, are the Corrado can trucks. And they do put a lot of weight on the front axle. So a garbage truck comes from the factory overweight on the front axle. Till you get a load on the back, it lessens. So that's, if you got a 16,000 or a 20,000 pound front axle, they could be overweight just with the amount of stuff that's sticking out in front of the
Sure.
truck.
Okay.
And you'll notice the holes that start forming in the pavement, especially the asphalt.
That's what we've seen.
The drivers cause some of the problems by, stopping, and it pushes, you see it on every country road. When they stop at a house, there's usually a spot there where they stop, and it sinks. Water gets in it, just gets worse over time. I run single axle trucks, I run dual axle trucks. I don't have any 3 axle trucks. But it depends on where you're running them and how the streets were constructed, what the city, codes are, and some towns there's no problems. But they got 12-inch concrete cul-de-sacs, and so the single axles, in my opinion, and I think it's a pretty good one, they don't tear up the asphalt as bad because they don't churn.
Especially on
Also
the round
weight.
the corners, but the total weight of the single axle trucks are in the 40,000 pound range.
Yeah, it's
And the rear dual axle trucks can go up to 60,000 pounds, and that's quite a bit of difference.
Yeah, it depends on the size and shape and configuration where the axle is and all that
Right.
stuff. There's a lot of variables. You know the numbers probably better than I do. I haven't been looking at the landfill tickets. I know our trucks pick up about 6 tons. Okay, our single axle trucks. Our dual axle trucks pick up, even the automated ones pick up to 12 tons.
Okay.
There are a lot of towns that are having problems with it. It's mainly little towns where the edges of the streets without the curbs and stuff like that, because we've got to be over to the edge,
Right.
right? And so we're tearing up the edge. Some of them complain about a single axle truck, but it's just not as bad as a dual axle.
So once you get fully loaded towards the end of the run, I mean, it's an additional up to 24,000 pounds.
Our business is all about payload.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like in the trucking industry, we got to get it to the landfill, so if single axle trucks, it just takes more of them. That's really, you know, to pick up.
Has anybody ever done a middle transfer station in town where maybe you do the single axle trucks and transfer that load to a semi-type trailer
There-
and then make one run?
There are, there's trucks that do that. There's what do they call those little things? They're little, like Cushman, they're little Cushman vehicles with dump beds on them that pick up in some towns. The Village in Oklahoma City used to be that way, or what's it, a real rich town that was in Oklahoma City. Nichols Hills used to have that service years ago. I mean, you can't afford to do it, just it takes too much, but there are trucks that do that. There's pack rat trucks that dump into rear load trucks that sort of work as a semi-transfer station. But when you gotta haul it a long ways, you know, we're gonna be
Yeah.
going, 20 miles.
I mean,
21
when,
miles.
when you're turning corners in the heavier versus lighter truck vehicles, when they turn a corner and you're putting all the weight on one side, it's quite a bit of difference. And
Heat, the summertime, it's worse, and you know all that. I mean, you deal with streets all the time.
Yeah.
We try not to tear them up. There's places where you can see you can't get in that place without messing it up a little bit. But garbage trucks are heavy.
Yeah.
Single axle trucks are not as heavy.
Right.
So,
Heavy either way.
thanks.
Exactly. I mean, they're gonna,
And, yeah,
and we've got to have our trash picked up,
that's right. Okay.
bottom line.
Thanks for the info.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank you very
I-
much. We
Mr.
appreciate it.
Brubaker or Thomas, I wanted just an opinion from our Public Works Department on what they think about trash trucks damaging streets.
And Jim, do you have any
You got anything
opinions
about-
on the county roads?
Okay. All right. So, as I said, the weight of the truck's the weight of the truck. More axles, you can spread that load over a little bit so your point load's first on your tires, but you're still having that full load throughout. As mentioned before in the previous one, and tonight was mentioned, the front loads, you get that hammering effect a lot of times with the big loaders out front, which is where you see at every stop start to have those issues. The other thing to look at while we're looking at these is on their contracts costs. I know we're trying to figure out, do you pass it on, do you not pass it on? One thing that wasn't mentioned, grass mowing is also included in that. The nuisance and grass far exceeds the cost of what we spend on demolishing buildings, and we run out of money every year. So where we have
Okay.
to wait for those nuisance cleanups. So just to make sure that was, let you know that was part of those fees in that extra 40%.
So, going back to the weight for a minute, just some questions that are coming as I'm hearing. With the single axle and smaller, what I'm hearing is then you now need more trucks on the road to pick that up. So, back
It's-
to the weight is the weight. What I'm hearing is, other than perhaps the
Certain
stopping,
roads, yeah.
the stopping motion in front of home and those divots, as far as, the quantity on the streets and the going around our concrete intersections, that's just going to be what it's going to be. So
Large-
if it
large
really
is gonna
comes
be
down
what it's
to
gonna
in
be.
front of the home,
Exactly.
It's coming down to that, right there, what's happening in front of the home. And that's where I would say, whatever we do, we get away from the front load hoppers, because you can literally go and see where, you could, even on an off day, you can see exactly where everybody puts their trash can.
and now is
I think that's-
that specific to roads that are older than the rest, that didn't have
So-
the right base put down? Is this?
That's a kind of in general, most of town is gonna be the same way it was built up, unless it's been rebuilt and reconstructed in the last 10 years, which we don't have a whole lot of those. We do focus on making sure that we improve our edges when we do redo the roads. As we did in Wilshire, there's roughly, I believe it goes out approximately 6 feet into the roadway of a concrete base 10 inches thick below that 2 inch of asphalt cap that they're driving on. So those are things that we can do as we fix roads moving forward to help prevent those issues, because you are still going to have some rutting issues no matter what. Even in the side load vehicles and trucks, The big difference is there versus you're basically hammering on one tire with that action. You're hammering on 2 or 3 for the whole load of the vehicle. It's for that rocking motion. So it's not as impactful as all that weight going on that one tire. One other things to look at while we go when you're reviewing these is we have options for 5, 7, and 10-year contracts. Annual increases are built into all of those, so the rate of the annual increase is included in those packages, to be aware of those. And as Ben was saying, there are certain roads would see more truck traffic going down to single axles and smaller trucks, and those are your main thoroughfares. So where they're getting into and then getting back out of the neighborhood, that would see a slight increase on the. They'd maybe have to run over that same road 4 or 5 times versus 3 or 4 times, just based on the amount. And that's just the main thoroughfares coming in and out. A lot of those main thoroughfares, that's what we're starting to work on currently, moving forward, and our plans overall for the reconstruction and readdressing and improvements on those. So those hopefully would be addressed in the next 10-year plan. As we move forward for those.
The good thing is the main thoroughfares are built for
They're
80,000
built,
pound plus
the
trucks.
main thoroughfares are built a lot heavier, luckily. Even now, they're built heavier than most of the other residential streets.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
get, something that was brought up here. What would the cost reduction be if we didn't have the random call bulk pickup and we set it to more of a schedule?
I do know the random bulk call is only supposed to be once a quarter per household, so.
Yeah, but every house on the block could do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that doesn't, but
And I didn't know there was quite that many. That seems high as far as from just driving through town.
maybe we have a
what's out there,
different
but-
plan on that could reduce that cost a little bit to them and their time and effort.
I mean, if they're running 300 extra, they're coming out on a dedicated run 300 times a month.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And the rule of within 5 days, I mean, people could space that out where it turns into almost every other day.
Yeah,
or
it could
every
be a
day.
lot.
So if we made it more scheduled.
You get one shot a month.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, is that,
Or
I think
we
that'd
have
be
a,
doable. The other thing that would possibly, I need a special pickup because, I don't know, I just had to completely buy new home furniture because of whatever happened in my
Right.
house. I had a
I
flood.
understand. Yeah, I
So you
can
have all that
understand that
stuff.
part.
Instead of saying, they have 5 days, it's, I need an extra bulk pickup. It'll be on Monday, and it'll be on, so it's just, they're already in town running their Monday route, and then they're gonna run and pick up that extra one that calls, and it's still on a Monday. It's not on a Monday.
a better
or
plan
Wednesday
for
or
that
Friday.
would save some money.
yeah.
We do this once a year, I think, but what if we had a place to take bulk items and then they just had one location to pick up from?
We do a citywide
Like a
cleanup
landfill?
every,
Yeah, like a landfill.
No, I'm talking, it's just a place to store it till they
we
can
do
get
the
there.
How are
citywide
they gonna
cleanup
get it
every,
Yeah, well,
usually
that's a problem.
October.
That's the problem.
Half people don't have trucks.
And that's kind of the one time that we do it a year. We used to do it twice a year. I don't know if that's something we want to try to discuss. There is a significant expense
Yeah.
to running that. And then, of course, you still have the people that don't have means to get that
Right.
from
That's
their
a big
house to
thing.
That's our
the
big thing.
location where that cleanup is.
I think it went to once a year because of the expense, and
Sure.
I understand that.
I had a question for you. When you get one of those 10 calls a day, do you have radio communications with the truck so that you could see wherever a truck is, and say, you've got an extra pickup 3 blocks down at address, so that you don't actually have a dedicated truck coming from the facility clear into town, but you could divert, or after the normal drive for that particular truck on that day, go back to that location, that random call in, and pick it up, and thereby reducing the amount of vehicle traffic.
I will say that the type of truck they run for bulk is a rear end dump, and there's two people, because it takes multiple people to load some of those.
That's why.
That's why.
That's why.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But just so you know, it is an option. Obviously, if somebody just has a chair or something like that, we try to add it onto a route coming up.
If you get over there and they've got something heavy and one guy can't pick it up, you know, you waste your trip. too.
Yeah.
So the bulky waste day that you have now, I mean, for the once a month, works in most places, by itself. The cleanup's extra, you know, a lot of times you find that it's just for people that have pickup trucks, you just said. And the other one is, people forget to put stuff out, they gotta store it till the next quarterly one, and take it to a roll-off box, or, you know, pay someone to haul it off.
Or like we see a lot of times, people either don't know, don't care, or forget what their bulk pickup is, and the truck goes by and they set it out on the street on a Tuesday, and it sits there for a month.
Exactly.
Not supposed to.
But it
Well,
won't
what
sit
it's
there for a
supposed to do and
month.
what it does.
Code enforcement will come by and say,
If
get
you
it back
call,
off the curb.
That'll address it.
So
Or
they'll-
they call it in,
or
and
they'll
we
call
go
it
to
in,
pick it
yeah.
up and somebody else has already taken it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
That happens too.
It does.
Shit, we put stuff out on Saturday for Monday pickup and it's not there.
So I will also say Melissa's done a great job of, we announce that every week.
Yes.
Who
Thank
is-
you.
who is
Yes.
your bulky
She
pickup,
does. She does a
if your
great job.
pickup
Every
is wet,
Friday,
we
you
do,
remind people.
We do get that out, so.
Yeah.
that
Thank
they
you.
remind people.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, she's great.
The other thing, Commissioners, as mentioned, we have 5-year, 7-year, and 10-year bids on there, if there's any conversation about preference there. This is an attempt to help staff either have questions answered the next 2 weeks as we bring these bids back for decisions, put numbers together on pricing, so any comments around the time frame and then the price increases, per year?
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
We'll look it over some more.
Yeah.
And I have some questions about some of the 7 and 10 year that I'm thinking.
I would be okay with a 10-year agreement.
I think that would be
With it.
ideal if we could do that.
Hedge against inflation.
Exactly.
For us.
That too. Right now, I'm still inside of single axle. That's me. In a 10-year agreement, if that helps save.
See a hand raised back there.
It's about the garbage contract. I was just gonna say that.
Please come to the podium.
Yeah, please.
We need you at the microphone so people in this watching
Online
can
can
hear.
hear you.
Accused of being loud all the time, but whoever you pick, I mean, it's important to not let too much time go by, because if with the trucks, things are different than they were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and getting equipment and getting it all delivered and put on the street. It's a little crazy in our business right now,
Sure.
so.
Okay.
I believe it.
Anything, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask us, or,
Okay.
but time is of the essence. Thank
We
you.
will.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Or?
Moving on.
Nope.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you to everybody who came. Next up is, go ahead.
No.
Is there a consensus in direction? Thank you. Is there a consensus in the weights? I mean, are we, I didn't see all heads nodding. What do you want to see staff bring back in 2 weeks? Do you want to just have all bids in front again and kind of have to start narrowing that down now?
Well, I like the longer contract, the longer 7 to 10 year.
Is that-
I like that.
And I thought that was when we had our work sessions, that helped, whoever did it with the equipment purchase and the use of it. It's probably a 10-year life, right? So they get to use the entire life of whatever equipment in the 10 years to spread that cost out. And that was another reason to go that, but also to hedge against cost increases that
Without taking a vote, is that a general consensus, or is there anyone that wants to, when we come back, look at the shorter contract?
10.
John?
I'm open-minded. I just, here's my boundary. I'm not going to give folks a tax cut and then turn right around and jack their trash rates up.
Yes.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to be
That's the
very
point.
careful of that.
Beyond that, as long as what we do doesn't significantly, there's going to be an increase in trash rates. Because everything that we have here in front of us shows us that it's just, regardless of which of these, I think it's 4 vendors that have bid, regardless of which one of the 4 we choose, the citizens are going to get an increase in their trash rates. I think that goes without saying. Where I'm at is we just have to balance keeping that increase as low as possible for as long a period of time as possible, which is why I would also be inclined to look at a 10-year contract. And I think when I looked at the census numbers, I'm wanting to say it was 40% of the households in Coffeyville are one-person households. I'm one of those one-person households. I put trash out every other week. So I'm paying $15.30 a month, or $15.30, a month. And sometimes even just put trash out every other week, my neighbor puts a few bags of his in mine because, they've got a full family living in their house, which, I just look at it like I'm just making good use of my money, but we just have to be careful that whatever we do, I also don't want to shortchange our efforts at city cleanliness, which when we mark up this service, that's helping, that extra margin is helping fund the mowing effort, as he said, and, tearing down these junk houses around town. And I don't want to shortchange that because, if we cut that margin down, that stuff still has to be done.
Right.
Right,
So that money still comes from somewhere.
somewhere.
Correct.
So.
But we need to
Doesn't,
watch it.
yeah, and it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily, it's just been, I'd say, tradition, it's come from the trash
Well,
fees.
and it makes
Doesn't
sense
have
where
to
it
be
comes
that way
from.
anymore.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
makes sense, cleanup and demolition come from trash money.
Yeah.
It makes
So,
sense.
And in closing, I think that the biggest contributing factor to the deterioration of the roads where you see this damage is the fact that we haven't done
Our part.
our part in maintaining the streets. I live on Fifth Street, in the super block, we call it, right behind the high school, junior high complex. I'm wanting to say that street was, Tony, was that street redone in the 80s, the late 80s or early 90s? When they widened it and resurfaced it and everything, put the new curbs in? He lives across the street from me. So that street has had really nothing of great significance done to it in 30 years, easily. And it's not been resurfaced. It's had some cracked ceiling and, we painted it black a few years ago. And it's helped it keep from deteriorating. But I don't see along Fifth Street, even though it's a 30-year-old street, I don't see a great deal of this damage on the edge of the streets because I would assume there's enough base below on the edge of the streets and it's curbed, so that there's a frame on that asphalt holding it in.
Yep. I would agree.
But I drive down your street where you live, Mayor, and it clearly wasn't built with the same workmanship, and you see
Or
on.
consideration, yeah.
Yeah, you build, and you've got curbs that are kind of heaving up and.
Yeah, my point is for
But
the
it's not
next
even in a great length of that
Yeah.
road. It's really confined in one block.
overlook is bad.
Yeah.
And my
It
point is,
is.
we're not gonna be able to repair the streets to those specifications in the next
Sure.
10 years, so I'm trying to protect those ones we won't get to for the next 10 years.
And
you
I'm
know,
just
with
simply
a
saying that where
contractor.
you're seeing this damage, the roads are far overdue for being replaced.
Correct.
Sure.
That's right.
And even,
They are.
even so, I'm still thinking, okay, yes, Fifth Street you built right, other streets you could build right. Very heavy trucks will still damage those. Eventually.
Well,
anything's
I'm
gonna
not gonna
damage
jack
it
people's rates up.
eventually.
Yeah, but
It'll
again,
get
you're
bad.
looking at, your typical pickup truck is 6,000 to 7,000 pounds, and your trash truck can be even halfway loaded, 50 to 55,000 pounds. That is 10 times the weight, and it does damage.
On the cost side, yes, we've decreased taxes, and then you've also, come to staff and said, find ways to make that up in revenue, which we're obviously actively doing and looking forward to that. There are going to be costs that the community together, you have to find ways to pay for. Yes, someone that does not have to go through the court system and or get locked out, we have to pay for those as a community. And I think the nuisance and how we expect our streets to look is one of those things where we have to find ways to pay for all of those. And so, obviously, completely decision up to commission on what percentage increase, if any, that you want to see, but I would just make sure that we do think about that there are going to be costs all throughout the city that residents have, as a community, pay to get things done, oftentimes for people who are not taken care of. And that could be because they're, absentee owners and they're not here. And so what I'm hearing here is that we need to come back, we're looking really at a single axle and side pickup is kind of the majority opinion here.
Well, and I have one last thought question.
I'm not to that point yet.
Can we
Okay.
can we get an idea from the trash bidders of what the cost reduction would be for kind of a rethink of a more scheduled bulk pickup instead of they just get to random call? Is it twice a month, or what would
Well,
be logical, helpful, and still
We have
save
to
some
remember too
cost?
here that we do already have bids that have come through on a process that have been open to the public. So are
Right.
you
Well, that was-
suggesting to?
You want more
You want-
bids?
No, just a rethink on that, maybe a modification of their bids, because I was not aware bulk trash pickup situation was the way it is now, with so many.
We've already got the
People
bids out
calling.
there.
We've already got the bids.
You'd have to,
Yeah,
At-
they're
at
out
this
there.
I'm
point, I
looking to
think-
save costs, so if there's an adjustment that could be made with a rethink of the bulk trash pickup,
when we talk rethink.
I would entertain
and-
that.
And Paul can answer that too, but essentially, we've gone out to the bid.
Yeah.
All those prices are now open to the public.
That's right.
And you may, in yourself, by asking, rebid within that. Now, I think we can go through those and look at the details in each and bring that back next week on what's addressed and what's not. You also only have two here, where you have several more that have,
Yeah.
bid on that.
I'm just-
On that, I would suggest that as far as for awarding, because we need to award and get these, because they're gonna have to gear up for this, is that we want to try to award something based off the numbers we have.
Right.
Then
Yeah,
we can talk
absolutely.
to whoever we award it to, and then we can negotiate them, say, hey, can we see any sort of cost savings on this? But we should base our
We should
bid
base it on what
off.
we've
of
already
what we
got.
have.
Yeah, we've
Because
got our
otherwise,
bids.
we really do have to start
You
the
don't wanna do
process.
Yeah,
from
don't mess
zero
with them.
With the
Well,
bid that was
also-
already out.
once you award and have a price, what are you gonna negotiate? It's already set. I mean, unless they're just being kind to say, hey,
I'm
if
just
we do
saying,
a,
Otherwise, we do start from square one.
okay,
Yeah.
do
We
it.
don't want to
The
start
We
numbers
don't
from
are
want to
square
do
one.
that.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yes, we should have thought of this 6 months ago about the situation with bulk trash pickup, and it's
Yeah,
something.
go ahead.
We were a little
Yeah.
busy
Come
at
up
the
here.
time.
Thank you.
I just want to say, in our bid, that we did put an exception that we would want to negotiate the agreement.
Okay.
So there
Okay.
is an option with ours to do
Okay.
that.
I think
All
that's,
right. Thank you.
I think
That's-
that's in several of them, that's why
Yeah.
I was saying, let's review and come back with those details that
Yes.
are already in those bids.
I'm
That's what I was
that.
getting to.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Okay.
We don't need to we need to just
No.
go into
Not
further
rebid.
details of what's already
I
in
didn't
all
want to
those bids.
rebid everything, I just wanted to rethink
Yes,
the
you
bulk
did.
trash
No.
pickup.
It's the same thing.
But Republic, you all only bid a five-year contract. You didn't bid a 7 or a 10-year contract.
No, and I'll just be honest with you, as to the reason being, this past go-around was our first 5-year. Before that, it was 3 years, and you guys bid every 3 years.
years.
So, our thought process was that chances were that, it's hard to especially switch to a new company that you don't know and commit to that many years. And our industry is changing. I mean, look what we've been through the last 5 years with recycling on that side of it, and then you throw in COVID and all the and the prices. I mean, it's just, it's not that, once again, we have the option of negotiating something. It's not that we wouldn't put that out there or that's an option with us. But no, we just did the 5-year with a 5-year renewal, which essentially is 10 years.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
So I think we've got enough information to bring back more details for conversation next.
And a decision.
Yeah, we do need to make a decision.
Yep.
And so, however, that needs to be on the agenda, with probably some more discussion following
Yes.
into that decision
Okay.
on what that is. And we will go get some of these details to review ahead of time.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
New business, ordinance S-24-04, an ordinance to allow alcohol to be served at the Perkins Building during
Thank
the
you.
Visit Coffeyville Haunted History Tour event.
you have any questions, let me know.
All right, welcome, Tourism Director Wyatt
Hello.
Starnes.
I guess I should introduce myself.
Yeah,
huh?
introduce yourself, please.
Wyatt Starnes, Director of Tourism for the Coffeyville Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome.
Thank you very
Congratulations on
much.
your new job.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And Mayor Hendricks, if you just want a rundown, Mayor and Commissioners, Visit Coffeyville has requested to serve alcohol to guests at the Perkins Building for its October 18th and 19th Haunted History Tour event. The city code prohibits the consumption of alcohol on public property, subject to some exceptions. One exception is allowed for city-owned property, which has been exempted by the commission by ordinance. This ordinance would exempt the Perkins Building from the restriction on consumption of alcohol for the event on October 18th and 19th during the specific hours shown in the ordinance, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. And Wyatt is here to answer any questions about the event.
And this was done the last, I
Yes,
know last year,
yeah.
maybe even the year before.
I don't know if the first
Nope.
year was alcohol
Alcohol,
consumption.
but I know it
believe
was done
just
last
last
year.
year, and it was a one-night only thing.
Right.
My
It
only
went really-
question is, and last year, the way it's worded is it exempts the Perkins Building. So that means you have to be inside the building, you cannot be on the sidewalk.
And,
Right.
and that is
Okay.
the plan.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
just,
That's what it says.
it just says, it didn't say exempt, it just says the Perkins Building. I didn't know
Which is
what all
not
that
outside.
included.
Yes, they are just serving the alcohol in the Perkins Building
Building.
before the tour starts. They will not be taking the alcohol out on the street during the tour. It's
Correct.
just in the Perkins Building before the event
On
begins.
public
Correct.
property.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's got it.
Yep, just kind of in the old bank area where they
Sure.
start the tour, and then once we start, that will all stay inside the building.
Okay. All right. I will move to approve the first reading of ordinance S-24-04 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maples to approve the first reading of ordinance S-24-04 as presented. Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Wyatt.
If you
you.
guys need tickets, come find me.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Next up, Resolution R-24-69, a resolution to authorize the issuance of a purchase order for commercial property insurance coverage for the City of Coffeyville's power generation plants to be effective September 1st, 2024 through September 1st, 2025. Director of Finance Martin Cummings and Executive Director of Electric Chris Weiner will make comments and answer any questions.
We'll go ahead.
Okay, so I feel like I was just here not that long ago doing the same thing with you guys, almost the same dollar amount. The difference is, as we stated in the last time I was visiting with you guys about insurance renewals, one of the things that is not covered by our general liability policy through NPR is our power generation facilities. Okay, and that requires a special dedicated policy to handle that. And currently, Chubb is the underwriter that handles the city's business on that and has been for some time. And once again has come up as the recommended underwriter by our current broker, Coffeyville Insurance Associates. And so the cost, as we're recommending it right now, is $641,704. That can be paid quarterly, so we don't have to pay that all at once. They will let us split that up. And just for a frame of reference, and we did, if you look in your packets, we did include this year's renewal versus last year's renewal. And as with our last insurance renewal that we did, it was a 12% increase. So we're seeing that pretty consistently across the board. Apart from that, we do recommend the adoption of the resolution to go ahead and authorize payment and to bite the bullet and move forward on it.
Okay.
Do you have anything you wanted to add on that?
I don't unless there's any questions.
I have a question for you. One line in the contract specifically indicates, and I'll use the phrase that's in the contract, certified terrorism
Yes.
attack. So the question is, who certifies what a certified terrorism attack is, and would that include hackers that get into the city system and somehow manage to disrupt electrical?
Anything you
services?
want covered probably won't be. That's my experience with insurance, especially when you're putting those boundaries on it.
So who certifies?
So as to for who certifies, to be honest, I don't know. My assumption would be the underwriter. But to your point,
That's the Fox is certifying that he got into the didn't get
Right.
into the hen house.
right. So effectively, we are recommending with this policy that we opt out of the terrorism policy. I did ask the question, would cyber terrorism be included? Because frankly, if it was, to your point, I think that would be worth potentially having. But it is specifically excluded from the terrorism policy.
Why don't we just leave that up to protection initiated by our IT department?
Well, any type of insurance is
Okay.
has its value, but I think
All right.
the
So the answer to my question is, no, it's irrelevant because we're not going to include it.
that would be correct.
All right, thank you.
And for the record, the dollar amount that we cite does exclude that premium amount, so.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So my question is, in the last, and you're new, I know, and you're new, I know. In the last 10 years, have we ever had a claim to this policy? Or even in the last 20 years?
That's a great question, and I would have to get back to you on that one.
We have, I don't remember the details of it, but we've had a claim in the past. There was a disruption of one of the units, and I can't remember the cause of it, but they paid several hundreds of thousands of dollars on that claim. I can get those details for you. if you-
No, I'm just wondering, my point was if we had any claims against us that were affecting this price, and what else would we do to mitigate that if there was?
Do you remember? Yeah, we had two claims on that, unit 6 is what we called it, on that boiler.
Okay.
Did somebody throw a wrench into one of the turbines?
Do what?
Did somebody throw a wrench into one of the turbines?
No, it was on that boiler, the Nebraska boiler. We called it boiler number 6. It operated for the Elliott turbine. We had two claims on that one 10, 15 years ago, something like that. So we had two breaches in that boiler that they had to put back together, so.
So it's been long enough in the past that it
Yes, I
should
would
not be?
think so.
No.
Okay.
It's gonna, the percentage is going up is with everybody.
Yeah.
It's not just, yeah,
Yeah, it's just the standard.
yeah.
Unfortunately, like I said, I feel it's like Groundhog Day. I'm back up here doing this again with you guys so quickly. But yeah, this is consistent. We saw an 11 and 12% on the last two renewals we did. And this sadly held up expectations.
If it goes up another 12% the year after and 12% the year after, are we going to get to a point where we have to up our deductible
That's a possibility, yeah.
and try to balance that?
We would have to take a holistic look with our
Yeah.
broker and kind of go line for line. What can we do to mitigate those cost increases. And yeah, and to your point, there will be some exchanges there. You know, we're gonna, take higher deductibles, and with my luck, that the year we take the higher deductibles, the year we have a claim. So,
That's right. That's why you gotta.
That's the way insurance works, isn't it?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Move to approve Resolution R2469 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Edwards, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster to approve Resolution R-24-69 as presented. Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
All right, next up is Resolution R-24-70, a resolution to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Wärtsilä North America for purchase of parts needed for the combined maintenance interval overhaul of the 18K and 24K hours electric generation engines at the plant, correct?
Correct.
And we have, again, Executive Director of Electric Chris Weiner and Superintendent of Electric Generation Tony Lawson here to make comments and answer questions.
So the purpose of this, of course, is to execute a purchase order for the recommended parts by Wärtsilä. In the packet, I believe you got all three quotes. They quoted it per engine, of course. So, and that is the recommended parts for the 18,000 and the 24,000 hour maintenance interval, which are the first two majors on those units. We're there. We're actually, as I look today, sitting at 21,000 hours. So we've gone past the 18, and we're going to be coming right into 24 by the time we do this, is what we kind of planned on doing to save, a lot of downtime. It also was going to save capacity payment by doing and combining both of them. The parts was, for total for all three was $1,762,000. I did put a contingency in there for your consideration in case we identify any additional parts needed before the turnaround starts, or after we get started in there. It just gives us a little spending authority if we see something in there that we didn't anticipate that we need to get ordered because of lead time. So that's what the contingency is for on your consideration. Like I said, they recommended the intervals of 18 and 24, which previous administration, which would be myself and others, when we come out of COVID, the first year of COVID, we noticed the hours really started picking up on those units. So we were studying it and said, okay, if we do the 18,000 hour within a year to a year and a half, we were anticipating doing the other, so that's why we decided to combine it.
Just say that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Each outage was, if they did it individually, it was about 45 days per unit. By them combining it, it cut it to 48 days to get both of them done. So there's a lot of savings right there in capacity. And I had there we go. The savings that I kind of figured roughly was about $500,000 is what we were going to save in capacity payment by combining these two hours or these two intervals. Especially, like I said, at $4,000 a day per unit. It adds up quick.
Yes, it does.
And also the loss of energy payment that we would have while these units were down.
Sure.
So what we're looking at is we're not going to do all three of them at the same time. So we'll start on one, and they're going to stair step them. So we'll never have all three of them down, but there'll be a short period of time where we may have two units down. We'll still have the other one operational in the market. So, we'll have a little revenue coming in that way on this part of it.
Tony, other savings there, I understand with the being down, but the reason of doing both 18 and 24 at the same time, I believe as we discussed that you'd have to go and pay for the labor to get down to basically what the
Yes.
18 is and then the 24. Can you
Yes,
speak
so,
to that?
yeah, and I have that too. And so there's a certain, as soon as I get him here, there's certain scope of work that's done at the 18 and a different scope that's done at the 24. And some of the work that's done at the 18, just to do to the 24, you have to open some of those parts back up. So it didn't make no sense to me or to us that here we go, we're spending all this time and money on this unit, and we have to open part of it back up to get to the other part. So, you know, you're taking a risk of not getting something sealed back or something like that. So that's kind of why our thought process on that was also.
And what about pushing beyond the 18? You had others who have these units who suggested they opened it up at 18 and they found...
Yes, some other Wartzilla plan owners that have done it strictly by the interval has come back and that I've talked to and said that they were perfect. So, you know, they could have waited a lot longer. Now, what a lot longer is, we don't know, but and it's like we talked, we think it's probably a little on the conservative side as far as the interval goes. So I think we're going to be fine doing it the way we got planned here. So
I think it sounds like a good plan.
And your savings is about 500,000?
yeah, that's on the loss of capacity.
Loss
yes.
of capacity.
Yes.
Which amounts to how much each unit is almost costing. I mean, it's costing 587,000. When do they expect turnaround to start? Because I noticed.
I tentatively have it scheduled because of the way SPP market is. You have
okay.
to plan it.
Right.
I have it scheduled actually to start about the second week of March
Okay.
of 2025.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I noticed we've got 4 to 5 weeks, not on all parts. Surprisingly, when I went
Yeah.
through the list, most of the parts are in stock.
Yep.
But there's-
2 weeks ago, some of those parts had a 5-month lead time.
Okay. Well, then
That's
that
kind of why
changed.
it's critical to get these parts ordered too.
Sure.
Okay.
So the other thing you'll see is the freight, air freight, which is
Yeah.
just over 30,000 per, equipment per each of these engines. And so Mayor Hendricks had some good questions. Tony reached out to the rep, and then I called him later again for further clarification. The shipping costs that we have, essentially, he told me this is just their standard practice. With the mayor's experience, he's found that there are other ways to approach that. And so when I specifically pushed him on that, his response was that he could go back. He has to consult with the part of their department that's in the Netherlands that plans out this shipping. And so we could attempt. He also said that basically it's standard shipping. It's based on the size and weight of each of these pieces. And we can let the mayor speak to that in a moment on his experience. We didn't specifically get ocean freight cost in this either, and he's willing to go back and ask. But there may be alternative options to shipping if Commission wants us to explore that.
Only if it makes sense or logical, but, and doesn't interrupt the time for the start of the rebuilds.
That's the critical path is we definitely want to make sure we get all these parts.
Right, absolutely.
On hand as soon as we can get it. I mean, I'm not saying expedite the parts, but they're standard shipping that
Right.
we've always had
Yeah.
with them. We definitely want to get all these parts on hand, and that way we have them before we start the
My
outage.
my experience was, and I had most of my questions answered by Ben and Tony. One thing I wanted to ask, and I'm not sure what they did, but when you talk about air freight, there's many different levels of air freight. There's 2-day air freight, there's 3-day air freight, and there's 2 and 3 week air freight, and the costs are vastly different. So if you don't care if it comes here 5 to 6 days later, you could save a lot of money. The other thing is, again, very good choice. I have no idea why Wardzilla would have anybody tear something down at 18,000 hours and turn around and do it 6,000 hours later in such a short time.
They want to sell you parts.
That's what I thought
exactly.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
Why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. Very expensive to do labor-wise both times. The other thing is, and you already hit on it, Tony, is, another city running these opened it up at 18,000 hours per the recommendation, and they're perfect.
Yes.
And the reason is, what I don't know, and I wanted to ask them, and I'm not sure they'll tell us, but are these, they may have a recommended interval at 24,000 hours. Could they run to 30 and 40,000 hours with no issues, perfectly, no problem? So what I'm asking is, as you tear these down and overhaul these next year, inspect or make note of the condition of these. Once we're in, we're going to replace the parts anyway. But at least inspect the parts. I don't know if they do measurements on the cylinders, on the pistons, on the engineering specs. If they were still, they thought they could run another 10,000 hours, what it's going to do is help you make a decision, or the next crew later, that you get this next service interval of 21,000 hours and you go, hey, look, last time these were perfect at 24,000 hours. I think we could go to 30 and save the money. And also, I don't know what room we have on the contract, but we're going to be down payments the way SPP works. If we could do something in the contract to say, we get penalized for downtime, but we should not get penalized for downtime for overhauling an engine, because that's just a necessary function of operation. It's not like anybody's fault or anything like that.
And planned
But-
outages on that part, planned
Correct.
outages like this, we don't get penalized, just the loss of capacity
Capacity.
payment. It's the unplanned outages or the forced that cost us.
So I realize we haven't picked a company to do the work yet.
Not
You're
yet.
still bidding and looking at that,
Yeah,
and
so we're
that's
still,
fine.
we've got a few besides Wartzilla on that one.
If you did the calculation, and Chris, you might do this, if they got it done a little faster, and we got back up and running a little faster, and got the capacity payments going again, what bonus would we give a company?
Provide an incentive.
An incentive to work a little faster and get us back up and going.
It's a good thought.
Just thoughts.
And how you can, where you can foresee issues coming based on data, and where you can't, what do we have in place currently to monitor those engines?
We, on the oil part, we do that testing quarterly. We pull samples, send it off quarterly, on the oil side of it. The monitoring side, that's just basically done from the engineering laptop that we have, the actual program the Wartzilla has in there. They do have, and we talked about that, they do have a program, it's called...
Expertise Center.
Huh?
The Expertise Center.
What he said. The
Expertise Center.
Which they can actually tie in, which NERC and the SIP laws now allow them to come in and monitor our system for us, and they can do monthly performance reports. It's a good troubleshooting also. So if we're seeing some issues with something and we can't figure it out, we can call them up. They can come in and look at it and lead us in the direction we need to go, or what part or what cylinder, or to
Right.
look at where the problem is.
And overall health of the engine, I didn't know if Wartzilla had this type of monitoring, but with a certain flow of natural gas going to each engine, it should be producing a set amount of power. And if you see a reduction in that, you're starting to see performance degradation.
Yes.
And so what's
We're not seeing that.
Right. And so that's in the future is, if you were producing the same amount of power, megawatts, to the third decimal place as you were a year ago, it would probably tell you that the engines are very healthy. And, yeah, how do you decide when to
Not something
overhaul?
that
And you don't want to
fine.
do it too
We may
soon.
not be able to see that, with our eyes, but if they have their program on. And it's something we're going to look at. We've visited with them about getting back in, and they're supposed to come give us a demonstration on this again, and we'll talk price at that point.
Has there been talk about price of the labor to do this yet? Do you have any ballpark idea?
Yeah, it'll probably be somewhere around the $1 million mark.
For the labor?
Yes.
Was the labor, do you recall, and Marty, I don't know if you have those details in front of you, on here, balance available, what was budgeted under 810-53620 was 2.4 million. If we hit contingency at 2.1, there's only, 300,000 left in that. Was that labor budgeted separately, do you recall?
That, yes, we had that in the, and I think we talked about it, at one point, we had that in the 2026. I don't know what got moved, if anything got moved to the 2025, but we did have some, a secondary amount budgeted for that. Now, we may. Do I?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Do we, question, I've been listening to all this and kind of thinking, as back in my previous life as a maintenance officer, squadron maintenance officer, I had to deal with a fine line between what's the difference between planned maintenance and it ain't broke, don't fix it. So is there a line there for us with these units, or is it just program maintenance, get it done, so we don't have to worry about future downtime?
I think it would be a little bit of both on that. There's some, I would say you would definitely want to plan some of that ahead of time, because some of those parts you don't want to wait, because it could probably cause more damage and a lot more expensive.
And downtime getting the parts, are these parts coming from Germany?
Finland. Finland, whatever's, they'll have some in their state, in the United States, in their warehouse.
Okay.
Most of it's going to come from Finland.
Okay.
And right now, the last that we know of, last week, everything was in stock or had a 4 or 5 week lead time, which was better than what it was, like I said earlier, 2 to 3 weeks ago. Some of the big items had a 5-month lead time, which was going to push it right up to the start of our outage part of that.
Yeah, and with those kind of lead times, you don't want to wait till
Yeah.
it's broken.
No.
So with,
All right.
I'd say
we recently approved a $400,000 repair on the bus bars, correct? Not that long ago.
Yes.
And then,
How much?
wasn't it 400,000?
On what, I'm sorry, on what?
The bus bars? Remember that?
Yeah, I don't
What does that have to do with this?
remember it being.
I'm just looking at total, so with this 1.76, 1 million labor, that for the bus bars, we're looking at, we're probably have spent 3.2 million in the last, say, year.
Look what it's
And then going
generated.
into.
Yeah.
And I
that's what
know,
we're getting out of it.
I'm just saying the number.
Yeah, well, we got to
So
get it
you
done.
know.
Yeah.
And-
I
You
think
can't let it
it's,
go.
it's interesting to know, and I think we're, of course, with as many new people in the room, we're trying to dive into those details, but, we're from a revenue generation, we're, in the 60 million some odd, and we're only making, that 3 to 5. So these are, a lot of natural, normal costs throughout the lifespan of these things to take care of the system, to run it, to staff it. So we do need to get down to those details to really focus in on expense and revenue to see that year to year, and we already know where we're at on that today, and have okay numbers, and so we're going to continue to
Well, I could-
hone in on that, and that's one of the big things that Chris
I
is
could
focused on.
mentally just amortize this over another 10 years, so.
And those bus
No
bars
problem.
was not anticipated to be happening.
Okay, all right.
Move to
Especially
approve,
twice within a year.
move to approve resolution R2470 as presented.
Second?
Motion is made by Commissioner Edwards, seconded by Vice Mayor Faulkner to approve Resolution R-24-70 as presented. Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Thanks,
Thank
Tony.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very much.
Next item, Resolution R-24-71, a resolution to authorize the execution of a construction contract with Cone Construction Services for the CDBG Multi-Use Trail Project. And we have Deputy Director of Public Works Thomas Osborne to make comments and answer questions.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is the CDBG project, which is the trail extension that goes from the trail that goes to nowhere. Starts there, goes all the way to tie into Leclerc Park, so it will no longer be the trail that goes to nowhere.
All right, yay!
No, it goes from Brahms to Leclerc Park.
Okay.
All right.
It's
Now we have a
destination
destination.
and a destination, so
Good.
we no longer go to nowhere.
That's good.
So this, what is, of course, CDBG project, we have a CDBG grant for up to $500,000 of 50/50 match with city funds. This would come out of the transportation sales tax. That's one of the things that our sales tax does for us, is to provide the safe routes to school sidewalks, the trails, as well as the new streets. And all the street work and repairs that we've been able to do these last several years, and well, the last approximately 10 years with the residential sales tax. We went out to bid and received bids, and we received, I believe there was 5 bids. 3 were kind of all together right around the low, and then 2 that were a little bit higher. Kane, I believe, is actually how it's pronounced, but don't quote me on that. I think I've heard it about 4 different ways. But they were the low bid at $677,420.39. Again, this is a 10-foot wide path that goes all the way from where the current trail ends north of First Street all the way to Leclerc Park, ties into the walking trail at Leclerc Park and around the lake. The construction inspection services have already been approved for BG, previous contract. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
And you feel comfortable with their estimate, especially since the engineer's estimate was $953,000?
So I used to find that the engineers would be a lot closer to what we get, but we tried to award too many contracts to the engineer to build, so they've kind of started bumping those numbers up.
Okay.
I think it is a good number,
Okay.
but the 3 were all right there together.
Right, I noticed
so,
that. Not much difference at all, but
yeah.
still, I just,
Yeah,
as
this
long
is
as you
a-
believe it's got everything in there,
This is
I'm
another
fine with
one,
that.
another one where the engineer estimate was far above what was awarded.
And I find BG, it seems like they tend to run a little higher than
Higher,
engineer.
okay.
So when
That's
it
fine.
gets to Woodland, how will we cross the street?
So it will actually take and tie into Buckeye, go up Buckeye and follow around Woodland to approximately just the east side of the city rec building there.
Okay, so it's going to come up, it's going to go north?
It'll be right at the top of the hill, so you'll be able to see it if you're coming up, and you'll be able to see it if you're going back, trying to go down the
Okay.
hill. So
But it is going to go over to Buckeye?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was going to come straight up.
Nope, it goes all the way, it takes the rail spur, goes over, and ties in right next to Buckeye.
That rail spur to come to Buckeye?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
No,
no,
Further north than that?
yeah, a lot north.
that
there-
one's a later one that we're looking at.
Is there any lighting on any of this trail? There's not
Currently,
right
no.
now.
Currently, no. So
But
that
that's
is,
something
that is
we're
a
gonna-
future thought to where we would look at what we want to do and how to really make it,
Okay.
make it brighten it up.
Quick
Okay.
tangent concerning the trail from Sycamore Park to the 4th Street Bridge. Is there any plan for that dirt trail to turn into concrete with steps coming up on the
there-
4th Street?
No, there wouldn't be steps, but we are looking at potentially doing something possibly with the millings from Buckeye Project. And to have more of a, somewhat of an improved surface, but at the same
Okay,
time,
thank you.
keep it a nature trail.
Okay, right.
Move to approve resolution R-2471 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Edwards, seconded by Commissioner Maples to approve Resolution R-24-71 as presented. Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thomas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Next up we have City Manager's report.
No.
No.
No, you don't. You got that.
Got the
Yeah.
biggie.
Oh, the biggie, yeah. This isn't the biggie, but ordinance G-24-06, an ordinance amending Chapter 40, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances by adding Division 3, authorizing the conditional operation of all-terrain vehicles, utility-type vehicles, and mini trucks on the streets within the city of Coffeyville, Kansas, and providing for related matters, including penalties for violation thereof. City Manager Ben Brubaker.
Commissioners, same thing, we met in August, discussed this ordinance in detail. We did have members of the public there that gave some comment. We had a list of questions, additions, and so we got with both our police chief and city attorney, and I'll just quickly review those changes to that original ordinance you saw when we were there. Section 40-82, Section 1, the last 3 lines, this is allowing for the crossing of the roads that they're not allowed to drive on. Specifically, provided such vehicle shall be permitted to cross such roadways only at an intersection at an angle of 90 degrees or as close thereto as possible, and at a place where no obstruction permits a quick and safe crossing. Those words are new to allow for crossing of the main thoroughfares that they're not allowed to drive on. Also under section 40-82, number 3, the last word changed from greater to less. So that is 30 miles per hour or whichever is less on the posted speed limit. You move down to item number 6. What was added there, and this is consistent with laws within Kansas, those under Kansas and motorcycle laws, those under 18 have to have a helmet. Those over 18 are not required to have a helmet. So that section was added. Items number 10. This goes into the muffler. There was some concerns that just stating muffler was not enough. This says, no person shall operate an all-terrain vehicle or utility-type vehicle in the city unless the same is equipped with a muffler system so as to prevent excessive or unusual noise. The muffler system shall be in good working order and in constant operation, and no person shall use a muffler cutout, bypass, or similar device. And then item 11. This is not necessarily new. What was asked there is that should we get specific with adding blinkers and adding lights, and we determined that this paragraph or this section here dictates that the standard traffic ordinances and laws must be followed, and so we believe that the intent of getting down into the specifics is not needed with this paragraph. The only other one, and I did not highlight it here, let me find it quickly. Item number 2. Again, this is still section 40-82, number 2. There was conversation between sundown, what that meant, different times of the year. We went back and forth on some times. We added from sunrise, between the hours of sunrise and 9 p.m. And that was to allow both summertime, evening, people going out to restaurants, perhaps working outside of the city on a ranch or farm, and getting back at appropriate times. Notice that, of course, 9 p.m. in the wintertime is dark, but again, back to the rules of the road and traffic laws would include lights, blinkers, able to see those stoplights, etc. With that, any further questions or comments on this ordinance? We do have to do a second reading, so this will come back. And I guess talking to our police chief, we do need to now go and put this into practice. We've discussed in here the decals that are needed. Well, where are they going to be needed? What size? Where do we buy those? So there's some operational aspects that the police department needs to go and put together to implement this.
I do have a comment, and we're talking about on the first page, section 40-81. paragraph 2. And the very last sentence says, utility-type vehicle does not include golf carts or low-speed vehicles. And again, my apologies, extenuating circumstances, I could not attend that meeting. And I would have recommended at that point that that sentence be changed in one of several ways. Either read, utility-type vehicle does not include golf carts, period, and strike or low-speed vehicles. But add in there, because that term, that phrase low-speed vehicles, I feel is just too vague, and that should be low-speed, insert the words, four-wheeled vehicles, and even after golf carts, add go-karts. That's not low speed, but those are four-wheel, those are high-speed vehicles, and could be a problem on city streets. So that's just, I offer that up as a item for discussion for the commission. What's your pleasure?
Just as a point of reference as well, if you read that paragraph in its entirety, it is defining that, and you'll see things in there about the size, the weight, traveling on 4 or more low-pressure tires, is equipped with a steering wheel, and bench or bucket type seating designed for at least 2 people to sit side by side. So I think that your mowers are not necessarily, they're already precluded in the words ahead.
Okay, that's where I was going, yeah.
Yeah, I think the reason you're seeing golf carts there is because they do have the 2 seats, they do have the steering wheel. So I think when you get into the definition of both all-terrain vehicle and utility type vehicle, based on the other words in there, that they're already precluded because of the
All right.
dimensions and
Well,
measurements.
What's the
I believe-
purpose of or low-speed vehicles? What was that intended to cover?
Well, that's back to, again, a steering wheel, passenger seats. I think we're trying to blanket. There's a lot of different types of vehicles out there. So anything that would have this size, this weight, 2 seats, steering wheel. If you just say golf cart, there may be something else that's not called golf cart that would, maybe we're talking one of those Gators. I don't know if you've seen those. We use some of those, vehicles at the golf course. I think there's a variety there without coming out and, being specific.
Okay, so we're
to
covered
each one.
then.
We believe we're specific. I will turn to our attorney here. I think we have an ordinance about mowers already on the streets anyways. Is that
I don't know about
correct?
mowers per se.
Golf carts, we do.
And you guys may have already, I think we had a mini truck. We have a mini
I
truck,
remember that.
It was specific to mini trucks.
micro truck.
Micro, yeah.
Micro truck ordinance that we passed a few years ago. And you may have talked about this at your work session, but where we started with this was when a citizen approached the city about the possibility of a UTV, ATV ordinance. I emailed the police department and asked for their comments, and one thing led to another. And Mike Brown, who used to work at the department in Sidney, Nebraska, said they had an ordinance that worked pretty well for them. So I plagiarized their ordinance, and that was one of the provisions in theirs. So there may be some tweaking down the road as we actually start implementing this, but it seemed to work for Sidney. Hopefully it'll work for us. To Ben's point, implementation may need to be deferred for a little while the police department gets.
I was going to say, I'd kind of like to know the implementation first, that we're all going to, that the police are going to have to do. I mean.
So this is going to
I'm
take
gonna-
second reading, but.
I know, but, and I'm still not real keen on to the 9 PM time. But.
What are your thoughts on that?
Sunrise to sunset?
That's my thought.
That's my thought.
So was the
I didn't
police
know we
department okay with clear till 9 PM in the middle of winter?
That was, one of the members of the public that was there was a police officer, not here on any official capacity. That was one of his recommendations based on what
I
he
know,
sees.
but-
Yeah, but what about the rest of the police?
I want to know, he was there for
Here-
himself.
What I would say is all of our comments we had several comments. In fact, I think we had nearly the whole leadership team comment. And ultimately, when it came back to Quinn, there is not anything in there that they're adamant about of don't do that we have not put in. I think
Okay.
they're very much open to the thoughts and opinions and good. And, you know, sometimes we want them to just say, tell us what it should be. That there's not a significant
But they're the
issue
ones that's
there.
going to have to
Yeah.
enforce this, is
That's what I
that's
don't-
why I'm
I'm
asking,
with
is I
you.
don't want them to feel like we've thrown something at them they're not comfortable enforcing.
That's right.
Yeah,
They're the ones that are gonna come up on something when something happens, not the five of us.
Right,
And
and
I
so
would
they've
never
been,
ask them or anybody here to do something that I wouldn't do myself first.
right. I think they've been included from the beginning. We've
Okay.
had several back and forths. They have seen these changes. As we've made changes, it's come back. We've been given that thumbs up through the whole entire process.
Well, as long as they are comfortable, I'm more
You tell me
comfortable.
they're comfortable. Okay. I've gotta know that all of them.
It's not
down there.
unanimous. I mean, there's some that would be opposed to any ATV utility.
I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
But
I
the
also want to
majority.
make sure it's the majority.
It's-
And
it's-
it's not
yeah.
just those that may have an ATV that want this to go through
Yeah.
too, out there.
Yeah. I think it's been pretty well vetted by the police department, and they
Okay.
seem to be supportive.
And you can adjust later.
Well,
if
we
needed.
can, and look,
Yeah, but I don't want to adjust after an accident.
this was a comment in that meeting, and we came back, we could, you don't have to accept this. We absolutely can continue to make those changes if you're feeling like 9 PM. And look, there's more than just the police officers, you know, making people uphold this. There's also as comment of citizens in the public and what you want to hear on your streets too, back to Sunrise, Sunset. So,
Well,
you know.
I think I wanted to go ahead.
Sunset, I mean, to say sunset, there's everybody's gonna have, aside from a legally, number, what is sunset, what's legal sunset?
When you don't see the
night.
sun in the sky
You know,
anymore.
that's a subjective, that could be a subjective. Well,
Unless
not
it's
sunset
cloudy.
yet. Yeah.
Well, now, I think I suggested 8 PM and 9 was thrown around and,
Well,
but that
now,
was just me.
Here's the thing,
Oh.
if they're comfortable with that and they're good with this, I'm good with it.
No.
I guess is what we're saying.
Yeah.
We don't want to make a decision they are not good with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would think that what we would do if there, to Paul's issue, this is gonna be new, there's gonna be kinks in it, there's gonna be issues that come up, there's gonna be something we didn't think about, there's always a loophole. We can adjust as needed on, this is a living and
Correct.
breathing ordinance here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just
My-
one-
And that I'm
one-
good with.
One last question for me. I promise.
No, you're fine.
We've read through all of the restrictions and the requirements, et cetera, but what do the police do? What happens when a what if? Here's the ultimate what if. Some 14-year-old kid steals dad's or borrows dad's ATV, runs out on the street after dark and gets into an accident, gets hurt or killed or hurts somebody else. Who's responsible? Do we have any does the city have any liability under the ordinance?
No.
Who's,
I wouldn't
Because
think it would be any
the same-
different than a traffic accident.
Yeah, that same 14-year-old could be in a car, could be
There's
on a
a
bike,
fine,
could be on a
you know.
Be on a
skateboard.
bicycle.
There's a
Could s-
$500 fine there, it says, subsequent or 200,
be.
Is the dad gonna pay the money?
It'll be like any other,
Oh, like any other accident.
Yeah,
It'll be treated
a
just
minority, a minor defers to a parent, on
Right.
on responsibility and accountability.
Yeah, all
Yep.
right.
my one question, just to make clear and make sure, we're not allowing golf carts on the streets in any
Correct.
other ordinance, and we don't.
No.
But there are.
But there are.
Well,
Exactly, that's what I was about to say.
There are.
there's
But there
being
are.
cited. There's some
And-
lawnmowers every now and then too.
Yeah, but
One-
lawnmowers don't go over 5 miles an hour usually. Golf carts do.
I can get mine up to about 12 miles an hour, so that zero turn out there on a
Yeah.
couple acres really gets going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got a lot of things that go on.
What do you think, Commissioner Van Oster? What do you want to do? You want to wait
If
one
I
minute?
am, well, no, if, and I will ask, if the police are all okay with this, then I'm really,
Well, they're not all.
So,
well, I know, but who?
Majority.
The majority.
Yeah.
Are they okay with it?
well, and
Not the ones that have ATVs. That's obvious. I'm just gonna come out and say that. That's pretty obvious, okay?
if we want to take a poll, look,
I don't want to take a poll. I want
When
you
you
to
say
tell me.
majority, we went to our leadership team.
At
We
the
had
police.
opinions from, at the
Yeah.
police. We had opinions from all of them that all varied greatly, ultimately going off of our city attorney and our police chief
Okay.
for those final statements. So the leadership team has been included. We've received that feedback. We went through all of those in one of our special meetings, the first one. The second one, we did not. And so what I would say is, if they all have a problem, and there are problems, this isn't in stone, we'll go change
That's
those.
right.
I think we're trying to do our best
I know
with
that.
all the information available.
All right.
And we will, look, if every single one of them came through and started going through the chief and into me and saying we have a problem, we'd bring it to you.
That works.
Okay.
If they came back, chief came back and said that this is turned into a monster, this is a problem, we could certainly
We can
rescind
retract
this.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, then if there's no other discussion, I'll move to approve the first reading of ordinance G 2406 as presented.
And I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Maples, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster to approve the first reading of ordinance G-24-06 as presented. Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Are you sure? Yeah. Okay.
Commissioner Maples.
I didn't have my mind made up until just this last second. Okay.
Okay.
Aye.
Well, you can change it next time if you want to.
Yeah, because it's just first reading.
Yes.
Yeah,
first
this is
reading.
only the first reading.
Okay. Commissioner
Okay.
Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Hendricks.
Aye,
Thank you.
we made it. Okay.
Oh, it's not over yet.
Yeah,
It is not.
second reading.
Next month, we're going to tackle living room furniture on the front porch.
Yeah.
Next up is the city manager's report. Mr. Brubaker.
Commissioners, as I watch the property that Independence is buying for their homes, they've developed one section. They've also bought 100 acres. They're really moving forward quicker than we are on other housing options. I've had several developers, I'm up to 3 at this point, reaching out on their own, talking about development in town. We have a new mortgage broker in town. It's really fascinating, all the little small things that are happening that make me just keep watching and go, what is happening? And I'm asking these people, well, why are you building here? Why are you opening in here? And everyone has a little bit different feel. So really positive, looking at Independence and what they're doing with their houses. We don't want to be far behind them either. And so we have moved forward, just exploring what is it going to take to go get annex our 100 acres into the city. The county clerk is going to come down and meet with us on Friday to talk about that. We're meeting with an engineer firm next week as well to start talking about what is it going to take from the initial planning stages. This engineering firm is doing this with a few other cities in Kansas. So just wanted you to know that we're starting those conversations where we don't want to. I think we all kind of said, yeah, in the future. We never really put a date around that. And just feeling the momentum in town and what even Independence is doing, we're just kind of picking up our feet a little bit faster here. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that front and where we go with options in the near future for that 100 acres.
Could you address the status or what happened to the planned senior housing project behind the bowling alley?
I don't know that I have the specifics other than an email saying that it did not go through, that senior housing. So that has not gone through. There are, other conversations about that property from a private nature that I just kind of heard, but it did not go through. Whether or not that will come back around,
if that falls
whether or not
through,
it's dead.
I would encourage encourage you, we need to take a look at, see if there's any opportunity there for the city to engage in that project.
Buckeye is on the way, if you've been driving by.
Looks good.
The expected end date, end of Friday, we're hoping is a completion date. We've talked about how we stripe our roads, and our Jim Wright, our new executive director, had a contact for those who stripe the roads at the county, who happen to be down in the area about the same time. So we're hoping that for very reasonable price, that they'll come in and be able to take care of that painting, and we'll try to include them in some of those projects moving forward. The equipment that we have at the city does not always make for beautifully striped roads, and not there's not fault there per se. It's the equipment, it's the condition of the road. People don't often realize when you turn on that paint machine, you don't get a stop, you don't get a
redo.
There's not a lot of redo, and
There's
so
not an eraser on that thing.
yeah. So we're looking forward to having that option for painting as well.
I've seen some bad ones too.
I couldn't do any better.
As we know, our fire chief position has been vacant. Working through that, and hope to have an announcement by Monday on filling that vacancy. And so I'll make sure to reach out to each of you as that announcement comes to fruition. Last week there was some conversations about bypassing, especially in 169, either tunnel for our railroad crossings. Did some quick review of grants that were out there. Chris has seen some of those grants, have applied for some of those grants as well, got with Public Works. The nature of both the slope, the size, the quantity of businesses, pie in the sky, 80 to 150 million to bypass the railroad there at 169. There's an option to turn that and bypass on Eldridge, but that's still in the, lots of money. And I would say that as we look to the future at water plant and electricity and some of these other things, that perhaps those take priority. So right now we're not chasing down any of those grants. They don't cover that full extent and cost. If there's further questions on that, I'd be happy to discuss with you and give you some of the preliminary ideas and numbers that we have and what it would take to do that. And with that, that ends my report. Any other questions?
We'll move into comments from commissioners.
I have nothing. We have executive session, so nothing.
I'm just gonna briefly say something. I know we've got a couple executive sessions, so I'll be uncharacteristically short. I addressed my feelings about taxes at the end of the last meeting, and to put a fine point on it, I got a lot of feedback in emails and instant messages from people, and I would say it was about 90-10. It was 90% positive and 10%, what the hell are you doing? And I want to address the 10%. I should have known I was a little over my skis when I heard the finger tapping from the other end of the table a couple weeks ago. I stand by what I said. And what I regret, though, is the fact that I got probably a little too colorful with my language. I did, and there's no probably about it. We have a new city manager and a lot of new executive level city staff that are in the process of trying to reestablish relationships in our community. And there are some very important relationships that include the school district and the college and the county that need to be, there's a lot of nurturing that needs to happen there, because there was a lot of damage done over the last number of years. It's not important at this point who or why It just happened. So to the extent that I've made your job more difficult and your team's job more difficult, trying to patch up relationships with those groups because of what I said last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago, all the days are running together. I genuinely apologize. I should have put a little more thought in how I was going to say what I said. I stand behind what I said. I just should have said it in a little bit more of a polite manner. So to the extent that I've made your job working with these folks that we need to have a good working relationship with, I apologize. You were correct when you told me that we, and this is very true, we at the city have, it's easier for us to lower our mill levy rate than it is the school board, the college, and the school district. We have a lot of other revenue streams. Those folks don't really. And so their decision, if they're going to lower the mill levy rate any significant amount, essentially translates into what services are we going to cut. That's just the truth. And although as a taxpayer, I singularly am okay with that, there are a lot of people in our town that depend on the services that are provided by the school district or the college or the county that may not, be so ready to turn loose of those services. I get that. So I apologize. I felt like the appropriate thing to do is to apologize to you in the same format that I made the colorful comments. I'm going to try to do better going forward. And one last thing about that, I have shared with you in the last couple of weeks a few ideas of things that I think that we, the city, can look at to try to foster better relationships with those people, in addition to me being more careful about what I say and how I say it. Because we do need to have a relationship with those folks. It's not been there the last few years. I'm excited about opportunities for us to work with the college and the school district in particular and the county. So I'm going to continue sharing my ideas. I'm going to try to kind of ratchet it down a little bit and not cause you more problems in the future. Last thing, city sales tax. We received information for June. Now, as you may remember, we get the information 3 months after the sales tax is collected. So in August, we found out what our June numbers were. And our June sales tax increased 0.87%. So just a hair under a 1% increase. Is it a lot? No, but it's an increase. We are still down on sales tax collections for the year to date to the tune of 4.49%, but every month for the last, it looks like 6 months, that number has decreased. So we're gaining on our negative for the year to date. And it looks to me like, I'm just kind of spitballing it here, it looks like we're probably going to end the year at just about flat, probably. And that's probably a small miracle because at the very beginning of the year, we had a half-cent sales tax that had lapsed. And the new one didn't kick in, I believe, until the 4th month.
April.
April. So, taking that into consideration, we're in real good shape. And this is an example of a funding source that we have at the city that they don't have at the county, the college, and the school district to fund the services that we provide the city. So this is a good deal for the city, for this number to be tracking upward, even if it's just slightly. And that's all I got.
All right, thanks. Quick question, comment is, as I was driving here, a thought came to mind. We had funding to a public transportation group that came some time ago, and that service was supposed to start in July, if I remember, and have we heard anything, or?
Yeah, Linda Follett came in the office, I would say, oh gosh, it was probably in June. And they were on track. They had gotten enough donations to actually do the 5 days as opposed to 3. So last I knew they were looking for a driver. They probably have found one, but I'm happy to reach out to Linda and see if she would be able to come to the next meeting and give us an update.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I'm glad that, because they originally came for 3.
Yes,
And
yep.
And they got
so
the
5 days would be
Yes.
helpful, very helpful.
I'd like to put a positive spin on a comment that Commissioner Edwards made, and that was before the election. I tried to attend as many subordinate boards and commissions throughout the city that we have, and started out by asking them, okay, what's good about Coffeyville that you will want to see continue to improve? What's bad that we need to change? And one thing that was a common thread throughout all of the conversations with all of these subordinate boards and committees and everything was communication. And as Commissioner Edwards said, that was previously damaged. And they said, we want positive communication. So it's happening. We see it happening. And I would just encourage you to continue to stay on that path.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have executive sessions, 2 combined. And do you want the first one 15 minutes, the second one 10 minutes, or a total of 25?
I think 15 would be appropriate for the first one, and 10 minutes for the next one. That should be appropriate.
Okay. So I will move to recess to executive session for 2 purposes. First, to discuss confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships as permitted by KSA 75-4319B4 of the Open Meetings Act, to include the city attorney, city manager, and director of finance for a period of 15 minutes. And second, to consult with the city attorney regarding matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship as permitted by KSA 75-4319B2 of the Open Meetings Act, to include the same persons for a period of 10 minutes, we'll add a little buffer, and to reconvene in the commission room at 8:55 or before.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Hendricks, seconded by Commissioner Maples, to recess to executive session for 2 purposes. First, to discuss confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships as permitted by KSA 75-4319B4 of the Open Meetings Act, to include the city attorney, city manager, and director of finance for a period of 15 minutes. And second, to consult with the city attorney regarding matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship as permitted by KSA 75-4319B2 of the Open Meetings Act, to include the same person for a period of 10 minutes, to reconvene in the commission room at 8:55 p.m. or before. Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Oh, goodness gracious, I've been sitting too long.
Okay. Okay.
Reconvening from executive session, no action taken.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maples to adjourn. Can I see a show of hands? Thank you.
Did you